Welcome back to another episode of Lock It or Leave It. Right here, we got to come out of the woodwork because the NBA season is back, the Hornets season is back. Hunter and I, Hornets reporters, and we got to be in Spectrum Center last night for that win over the Brooklyn Nets. I kind of want to talk about everything going first, but I mean, Hunter, just initial takeaways really quickly. What kind of stood out on night one in the NBA?
Definitely, man. Charles Lee starting his second year as head coach of the Hornets with a win, starting two rookies in that win, and Con Knuppel, Ryan Kalkbrenner playing three of the four from this rookie class. 10 guys played in the first half, all 10 of them scored. I just thought overall great team performance and good to see something like that, even if, like we say, it's against the Nets.
Yeah, we'll get to that, of course, but I want to start off kind of going into this episode by just both of us going through our favorite play of the night. And I guess I'll just start off. My favorite play of the night was when Michael Porter Jr. hits a mid-range jumper to make the score 6-7 in the first quarter early on. And when I was watching the highlights back yesterday, they were showing a picture or like the video of Michael Porter after hitting the shot. You know, the zoom in when a player makes a shot, they'll zoom in on his face going down the court. And by the time they showed the NBA court again, I'll loop that video in, LaMelo's already at half court.
Yeah.
He inbounded the ball so fast. He's going 100 miles per hour, even off of a make. And that led to Brandon Miller getting it in the corner, feeding it back to LaMelo because the Nets did not set their defense. And Melo gets a wide open three. And that play kind of stuck with me because I think it was a microcosm of the entire night. It doesn't matter if we get a defensive rebound or if we're taking the ball out of the basket. We're going to start and create our own pace, create our own fast breaks. And that just resonated so much with me.
Yeah, and I think it's a little different. Last night it felt like controlled chaos, right? We
Yeah.
talked about how well they passed the ball, 33 assists on 48 makes, but maybe a little different than the James Rago days when it was just push the ball, push the ball, push the ball. It felt like I said, there were multiple guys that could handle the ball. We saw Colin Sexton, we saw Con Knuppel handle it. Obviously, the Mello, Brandon Miller. It just felt like they had a lot of different options where I don't think they've had that maybe in the couple years past.
Yeah, so take me through your favorite play of the night, Hunter.
Definitely, man. It's hard to pick one of these lobs from LaMelo to Brandon. A, it's just good to see Brandon Miller back out there on the court. We talked about it a little bit pregame. And then B, seeing the third lob connection, I think we're in the second half at this point. Melo throws it up, Brandon dunks it with his right hand, and there's a steal going the other way, coming right back down the court. And Brandon's ahead of the pack. Melo's got the ball like just before half court, and they make eye contact. And I think we talked about it a little bit. Brandon is saying, "Throw it again, throw it again," and Melo's like, "Nah, dude, not this time." And Brandon Miller just has this like ear to ear smile as he's backing into the corner. And I asked him a little bit about it post game, just their connection. And Brandon talked mainly about the defense, but you know that lob connection is so good if you want to plug that audio.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll plug that right here.
The third lob that you slammed, there was the turnover, and you're running the other way. It looked like you and Melo made eye contact. You smile, big smile on your face. He's back in the corner. Talk about that connection between you guys.
You know, like I've said before, I've seen him throw a lot of lobs. But I think one thing that people don't talk about is just his competitive spirit on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like that's one thing he's worked on this summer is just, you know, guarding off ball actions. Of course, we see he's getting stronger. So just hats off to him. And, he had a great summer. It's going to continue to be great from here on.
And what's great about that clip is we've seen that Melo and Brandon can both shoot the ball really well. Thinking back to last year against the Detroit Pistons when they're getting whatever they want on the perimeter, and they can also do it on the fast break as well. But 23 fast break points, six of those were off of lobs, just from LaMelo to Brandon Miller. But like you said, I think on that possession, did Miles Bridges end with a dunk on that transition?
He sure did. Yep.
He sure did, and that's the thing where you're right. Brandon fills the lane correctly, and LaMelo says, "Hey, man, I can't." So it's a little too much to do, and
Yep.
Miles ends up with a dunk on the other end. So great start for the Hornets, great pace of play. But I want to kind of transition to Charles Lee's bullpen, and what I mean by
Yeah.
bullpen is I was watching the game, and I'm watching Charles, and he's directing traffic, and it felt like for the first time he was actually able to coach. He had the personnel. Now he could do his own thing instead of having to draw up a play that maybe Jalen Sims or another player would be able to execute. What did you see from Charles Lee tonight or last night in the bullpen that he was effectively able to use to mix and match throughout the night?
Yeah, like I say, I mean they played 10 guys in the first half. All 10 of them scored. Nine guys finish in double figures. But in particular, there was a moment that I really realized what you're talking about, and it started the fourth quarter. The Nets, kind of that last gasp in the game. They were down 22. They cut it to 14. The Hornets kind of re-extend that lead, and Brooklyn would get it back down to 13. And Charles Lee has three rookies in the game early in the fourth quarter in Sion, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and then Con Knipple, along with Miles Bridges and one other vet. I don't have that fifth player, but just the trust in those guys to be able to keep that lead. And I mean, Jeremy, we watched so many games last season where the Hornets would have a double-digit lead, maybe in the first half or early third quarter, and you just watch another team walk them down. And last night, they were able to weather the storm when Brooklyn hit a few threes in a row. They cut the lead to 13, and Charlotte goes on a 9-0 run, puts the game to bed with about 5 or 6 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. So just the ability to like dip into that depth because we haven't even seen guys like Grant Williams, Josh Green, and then Leah McNeely, who I still think is going to be a contributor early and often on this roster.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I want to give a shout out quickly to a kid named Max that I met last night,
Yeah.
and the media section was absolutely packed. So I was blessed with a seat in row four behind the basket, and the game felt so much different watching it in that, setting. But next to me is a kid who's an aspiring sports broadcaster. He looks like he's maybe a freshman in high school, maybe in middle school. He said he went to Weddington. His name's Max. This kid's awesome, and he's kind of picking my brain for the entire game. He's saying, "What do you see here? Was that call okay here?" And it was just awesome being able to kind of, share some, I guess, knowledge that I have about the NBA down to him. But what I noticed and that we're talking about is these guys like Sion James and Ryan Kalkbrenner and Con Knipple have such defined roles so early. Ryan Kalkbrenner isn't doing too much. He's
Yeah.
splitting, he's what's it called? He's setting the screen, doing the short roll, staying in that spot. If he gets it, he gets it. If he doesn't, he's getting out of the paint, making sure he doesn't get a 3 second violation. Or he's splitting the screen, he's sharing it, getting down to the post, sitting there waiting, and Trey Mann finds him. All he has to do, catch, put the ball in the basket. He has a clear, defined role. Play defense using his verticality, grab rebounds, and be ready to make the pass patiently after the short roll. Yeah, what do you got?
And I think this is key watching this team the past few years. Ryan Kalkbrenner, it's one game, or just say the small sample size, but he plays like he's 7'1".
Yeah.
And maybe some of the bigs of the past haven't done that for the Hornets. And it's nice to see somebody that can stand vertical, hands up, not draw all the fouls, didn't leave his feet. There were a couple times last night he looked like a rookie. I mean, he's green, man. He's played a lot of college basketball, but this is a whole new speed. But yeah, man, him and Khan combining for 21 points. I thought they played great, especially to get the start.
Yeah, and one more thing on Ryan, where I think a lot of players who are super, super tall feel like they need to try and swat every shot in their vicinity. And Ryan is, in a lot of scenarios, just saying, I'm going to use my length to go straight up, not even jump, just to stifle or just to make the offensive player adjust their shot just enough to be able to force a miss. And once that miss happens, we know the alley-oops, the Showtime play started coming. And then we go to Con Knipple. This guy is. Hornets fans are seeing VJ Edgecombe score 34 last night. They're seeing Dylan Harper have a great game against the Dallas Mavericks, and they're watching Cooper Flag, you know, all things considered, have a great debut in the NBA. However, Colin Knipple at four exactly fit into what the Hornets wanted to do. And you saw Charles kind of grill him a little bit on defense at times, and Khan said in the post-game presser, "Hey, I got my hands caught in a cookie jar a couple of times there. I got to stop that." But just on a pure terms of NBA, doing your role, filling your role, making those shots, what do you see from Con Knipple tonight?
Yeah, I thought he played his role perfectly. I mean, I asked him after the game, you get your first bucket. It was pretty early. And I mean, you saw him just kind of light up. I'm like, man, it was good to get it out of the way. Like I didn't have to worry about it, didn't have to miss some shots and put pressure on himself. He can pick up as another primary ball handler in this offense. He can move really well without the ball. We saw that LaMelo finding him, Brandon finding him, even Trey Mann or Miles Bridges during that game. And it was you feel good about what he's going to bring, and he's only going to get better. Whereas Ryan Kalkbrenner maybe is more of that polished NBA ready player playing 5 years at Creighton. I mean, Concaneppo's a one and done. This is a young kid. He's like we said earlier, he's green. He's got a lot of room to grow and a lot of chemistry to build with Melo because I mean, you could tell that's still gonna grow. I mean, night one, there's gonna be so many different rotations. And dude, one thing I want to mention really fast. Musa Diabate, we haven't talked about him yet, might be one of the most violent basketball players I've ever seen. He is trying to hurt people if it means he's gonna get a slam, put them in the rim every chance he gets, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Musa, you could see the second chance points that he created were amazing, and that Max kid was kind of looking up at the box score, like the scoreboard up top, and he's saying Ryan Kalkbrenner has 3 rebounds or 2 rebounds. Sion James has 4 rebounds. What's that about? And
Yeah.
I'm saying, don't let the counting stats deceive you. Where Ryan Kalkbrenner and Musa are having to fight and box out and do all the dirty work, all the heavy lifting, allowing a Sion James to come around and steal that rebound to keep the possession alive. Sion got that, led to a layup right there.
And it's also, I mean, Brooklyn put up 43s. There's a lot of long rebounds, there's a lot of things like that, but it's good to see your guards being able to get the ball, start the break, and Sion did really well with that with the ball in his hands last night. And admittedly, I was a little shocked in game one.
Yeah, I saw Sion check back in for the third time in the first half, and I'm writing it down saying, "Oh, this is a real rotation player from the jump." Charles
Yeah.
Lee really trusts this guy, and you can see in another thing that I was saying before the NBA draft, you can see what type of archetype is working and is being put at a premium in the NBA. And it's guys like Sion James, it's guys like Andrew Nemhard, it's going to be guys, another rookie like Will Richards from UF who comes to the Golden State Warriors and he's doing those little utility things as well, athletic backcourt player and the slasher. And I'm just excited to see the bullpen that Charles Lee has in this season. But we talked about the rookies. Now I want to talk about the new acquisitions, Colin Sexton. Talk about a jolt of energy, Hunter. What do you see from him?
Yeah, his ability to get to the line, get downhill, slow the game down. There was a stretch there in that third quarter. And we texted a little bit about it. Like Charles Lee made a mass sub. I think Colin was one of those guys that came into the game, and it was like, okay, Brooklyn's going on a little run. They're getting hot from three. Michael Porter Jr. has the greenest light of all time on that team. And Colin's ability to just take his defender off the bounce, get to the hole, get fouled, whether it's an and one or just get into the line, like I said, slow the game down. It felt like he had command early on. And like I say, his chemistry with the bigs is just going to continue to grow. Like him and Musa both in the game at the same time. Like I said a minute ago, that's a violent pick and roll duo. Like either one of those guys can put you at the rim at any time. Like I said, he's able to draw a lot of calls, get downhill. I love what he brought, and I think Charlotte needed that, knowing that Trey Mann in that role last year was more the finesse guy. He could make moves on you. He could hit that step back three. The crowd is going crazy, but he wasn't getting to the line at that clip. And I think Colin had a different element on that front.
Yeah, I was watching the Lakers versus Warriors on opening night, and at a certain point, the Warriors just said, "We're gonna blitz Luca, and we're gonna
Yeah.
make Vando have to make the right read in the short roll, or force Jackson Hayes to make the right read in the short roll. And even if they do make the right read, we win the possession because Luca didn't dictate the terms of what happened on the offensive side of the ball." With the Hornets, I'm thinking, okay, you trap LaMelo, you dump it off to Colin. That's a guy who can very consistently make the right read, or you dump it off to a guy like Trey Mann, or a guy like Brandon Miller, or a guy like Con Knipple, or even Miles Bridges. It's going to be hard for teams to try and, put two on the ball against LaMelo Ball when you have these lineups that can alleviate that pressure from him. And I think Colin Sexton is a great addition there. Like you said, getting to the line. There's some
Yeah.
plays where it may not look like a foul, but it is. And Colin Sexton knows I can get downhill, I can get to my spot, I can get to my decel step, and I can get to the free throw line whenever I want. And like you said, it slows the game down and helps everything out for the team.
Off that, so Colin had 7 free throw attempts behind only Brandon Miller. And you talk about that D cell stuff, dude. When Brandon Miller gets that in his game, and you could see it a little bit, he's getting there. One thing I will say about Brandon too is last night he was like visibly frustrated with himself when he would miss some of those like midi jumpers. That's his game, like that's his shot, getting to his spot. I mean, he talked about it after the game. No soreness right now in that shooting wrist, but man, coming off a season-ending tear and surgery of a ligament in that wrist just 8 months ago, it's good to see him come back, get 25 points in his return to action and 7 assists. That's good for B-Mill.
That's great for B Mill. And staying on Brandon Miller and kind of moving to the big three of the Charlotte Hornets, I want to talk about how all of Brandon's shots were mostly assisted. The
Yeah.
alley-oops, the threes that he's getting on swings. And I asked him a question about, hey man, you guys are moving the ball so well that you have a good shot and you're passing it up for a great shot. I think of the second half when swing to Brandon Miller, he sees it, he could have taken it, gives it to Miles Bridges for the wide open three. And he said, hey man,
Good to
just like you
great.
said, exactly, just like you said, we can pass the good shots up for a great shot, but it starts on the defensive side of the ball. So it's good to see them buying into what Charles Lee's preaching. But that's one of the big three. Number two
Yep.
is Miles. I want to talk about the bully ball from the tip. This guy was going directly at his matchup over and over again, and he was missing some bunnies, but I think he set the tone offensively for the physicality the Hornets wanted to see. What did you, I guess, look at and determine from Miles Bridges' game last night?
The first thing I thought was, even though he's not, I mean, last year at times he was the first option. Last year at times if he didn't score 30 or 35, the Hornets had no chance. This year in this rotation, he's the third, fourth, sometimes fifth option, and he's okay with that role. And I mean, I thought his ability to crash the glass, I mean, just do the dirty work for this team. And the hops seem like they're back, man. He had a few dunks in this game where you're like, okay. He talked to us before the season, a couple days before, about in the best shape he's been in since 2022, the conditioning. I think he's going to be the dirty work guy for this team. We've seen him have to take on the opponent's best forward. Whether I mean, there's nights where he's guarding KD at the Spectrum Center, nights where he's got to guard Giannis because we haven't seen that jump from Tajon Salon for maybe what they drafted him for to be able to take that. So that's, I mean, that's going to be his job. You know what I'm saying? Like Brandon Miller can guard these wings, but Miles, maybe a little shorter than Brandon, has more, I guess, meat on his bones and can take those hits. I love what he's bringing to the team right now. And he's just that vocal leader, man. You could see him getting fired up. You see, even when the lob isn't mellow to Miles, like it's been for years, when it's mellow to Brandon or mellow to whoever, you see how excited he is. And I love that, man. I think it's going to be a fun year for him, especially if they stay healthy and he can kind of play in that role where he doesn't have to score every single night.
Yeah, like you said, when he doesn't have to initiate, when he's not at the top of the
Yep.
key, having to break someone down, go between the leg, try to get to the basket. Instead, he's catching the threes off the swing. He's making a closing defender have to pay by having that quick first step and going to the basket. And then that's when the defense collapses. You kick it out at someone and ping, the ball is flying around. That's what Charles Lee, that's what the fans want to see, and that's what good basketball consists of. And then we got to talk about the conductor of it all because once the fast break starts, everyone knows you give it to one guy because he will make
Yep.
some magic happen. LaMelo Ball, he was healthy. There were some reports saying that this guy might have been questionable with an ankle leading up to the game. He looked 110% to me. What'd you see from LaMelo Ball? Didn't score that much. Did he have 15 points in that game? I think
Right at 20, yeah.
right at 20, but you could see that his impact on the game was so much more than what the box score showed.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, early in the game, there's a point where he's 1 for 6 and his shot's not falling, and the Hornets are up double digits.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, again, last year as we talked with Miles, it was like he had to score a ton for them to be competitive. If this team is going to play well enough for them to have double digit leads when he's not hitting these heat check threes, when he's not taking these, step backs, like playing his kind of like freelance game that he does, it's gonna be massive. And then I feel like he found his game in the second half. He shot almost 50%, 20 points, 8 assists. Like that's an average LaMelo Ball night. He didn't play great, and the Hornets won by, double digits. Could have been more if they kept the pedal down late. So I thought he was great. You see some of the effort on the defensive side of the ball. Brandon Miller talked about it after the game. I like where Melo's going, and I like the ability for him to not always have to have the ball in his hands for this team to have a chance to win.
So we talked about the fast start. We talked about the rookies, Sion, Khan, Ryan, Kalkbrenner. We talked about the big three, Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges. Talked about Charles Lee's bullpen, everything. It was the Brooklyn Nets. The Charlotte Hornets are now 5-0 in the last 5 years in season openers. They started out 5 or 1-0 past 5 years. I don't want to get too high. I don't want to get too low. I don't want to overreact or underreact. You could tell the Nets in the second half were just throwing people out there. They're throwing Traore
Yeah.
out there. They're doing whatever.
They saw
But
the Cameron Boozer film, man.
they
Yeah.
saw they saw the Cam Boozer film and said, "Hey, man, the top of the draft next year is elite." But how much do you kind of put into this? It's opening night. It's the first game back. The team is fully healthy. Of course, it's always going to be a fun team, but can this somehow be consistent going forward?
That's the thing, man. Like, I think, well, I mean, the first 10, 12 games, you kind of get that mix of middling teams, low-level teams, and then some good teams. And the next matchup at Philly, I think that's going to bring the concerns at the center position to light really fast. How are you going to compete with a Joel Embiid? Because Nick Claxton has had moments in the league, but he's not really a premier big. You're about to go against one of the best. And then you're going to see that Con Knipple, VJ Edgecombe matchup, the 3 and 4 picks. I think this team is better than it was last year for sure. I don't think we're going to see as many 10-day guys playing like the Teo Maledon minutes are a thing of the past. And that's no slight to him, Ish Smith as well. Those guys that came in and kind of bridged the gap when there were so many injuries on this team. We talked about them being able to go 10 deep right now, not including Liam McNeely, Grant Williams, Josh Green coming back. I feel good about where they're at. I think they've got a chance to be competitive in a lot of these games this year. And I mean, we talked about it in our group chat. We'll know by late November what this team is doing this year. And I mean, last night was a great first step. Let's see how they do as these games start to compound.
Yeah, absolutely. Spoke to Mason Plumlee in a post-practice availability maybe a week ago, and we were kind of just asking him about the Hornets, why he came back to Charlotte, all of these things. And one of the things people talked about was the team camaraderie, the team chemistry. It seemed like everyone was in a really good spot together, cohesion-wise. And he said, "Yeah, I mean, it's great. Let's see if it keeps up 3 months in, right?
Yeah,
Let's see if the vibes that we have right now are the same when it's January, when it's December. Let's just see what it's like." And what you said is a great point, right? Ryan Kalkbrenner going up against Joel Embiid. I just praised him for playing defense without fouling, for using his verticality. I think he's going to have 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes of that game guarding Joel Embiid. I think
yep.
Con
It's just a
Knueppel,
different type.
just
Yeah.
a different type. I think Con Knueppel against the Sixers backcourt, that fast, punchy backcourt, might have some problems. How do you bounce back is what I'm looking for the season. How do you rebound off of some of these games that may not go your way when you can't get that pace going, when you can't create your own fast breaks? Because now teams know, hey, they're going to inbound it fast. We got to set up very fast on defense. What can you do to counteract that? That's what I'm really excited for. Looking forward, Hunter. Thanks for joining us. How can we find you and listen to you going forward?
Definitely, man. On Twitter or X at Hunter_Bailey 45, working the Charlotte Observer and on the Highway 49 pod, man. You might see yourself on there too. Who knows, man?
Yeah, might catch a glimpse of myself on there. Go like, follow, subscribe to everything Hunter is doing. This is the first of many we're going to be talking about for the Hornets this year. Get used to seeing our faces on this channel and on his. But other than that, man, great way to start the season off 1-0. I'm going to do a little segment on 3 takeaways that I've seen last night in the NBA because Victor Wembanyama just did some
Woo!
stuff that I've never seen in the NBA. Made
Yeah.
Anthony Davis look like a doormat. But Hunter, really appreciate it, and we will catch you next time. Peace.
Yes, sir.